Welcome to the True Crime Catch-Up. Now, this is our last episode of 2025, so we're going to look ahead to 2026. It seems the logical thing to do on New Year's Eve, right? We're going to examine some of the major true crime talking points that we will likely be discussing next year, and perhaps even make a prediction or two. Adam, how are your
I think so.
predictions? Are you much of a gambler? Are you?
No, I'm rubbish. You?
Terrible. I am Stuart Blues from British Murders, by the way. The voice you've just heard is Adam Lloyd from UK True Crime. Adam, hello. And every week we dive into what's happening in the world of true crime, from the biggest headlines to the strangest stories you might have missed. If it's your first time listening or you're coming back again, please make sure you follow the show wherever you are listening or watching, subscribe on YouTube, and if you enjoy the show, please leave us a quick rating or review. It takes 2 seconds, it costs you nothing, and it helps other fans of true crime to find our, can we still call it a new show?
Yeah, it's new.
Yeah, it's new. It's a couple of months old. Why not?
Yeah.
You can still find our new show, and your reviews, your likes, your shares, your comments, all the engagement helps. Should we get into it, Adam? Because I'm just going to ramble if not.
No, as if. Let's do so. Okay, we've got some big trials coming up next year. I've been looking through. And if I look at it, I think the mainstream media will be drawn to the trial of Russell Brand, the comedian. So just before Christmas, you'd have seen this. There were 2 new charges brought against Brand relating to 2 women. And they are in addition to the 5 charges that were issued to Brand in April 2025, which involve 4 women. So Russell Brand will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 20th of January 2026 in relation to the 2 new charges, and a trial is scheduled to begin at Southwark Crown Court on the 16th of June 2026 in relation to the 5 original charges. So clearly, Stuart, we have to be very careful about what we say about this case for legal reasons. But later in the year, we certainly must have the conversation about whether it's even possible for high-profile celebrities to receive a fair trial. But except for Russell Brand, Stuart, what else do we have coming up this year?
I mean, the big one, I guess, is the trial of the alleged, killers of Ian Watkins, even though it seems pretty set in stone. We have covered that briefly on this show. So in case you missed this one, maybe you've been living under a rock. Ian Watkins, the former singer of a Welsh band called Lost Prophets, died in prison in October 2025 after being stabbed. 2 men have been charged with his murder and another with conspiracy to murder. Now, Watkins was already serving a long, long sentence for some truly abhorrent historical sexual offences. I won't go into it any further. The case against his alleged killers, though, has drawn attention because of Watkins's notoriety and the unusual setting of the crime, i.e. inside prison. That trial's scheduled for May 5th, 2026. Now, just before we go on, talking about the Russell Brand thing, we see a lot of this nowadays, don't we, where celebrities, quote unquote celebrities, comedians, subjective, get these charges from years gone by, and the natural question people ask is, why wait till now? Do you think, though, my real question isn't about that, I'm not questioning the validity of these claims, but in this country, you mentioned a fair trial. It must be difficult to pick a jury in this day and age of social media to have it unbiased. But are we now in a society more so than ever where people are presumed guilty until proven innocent, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And the first part of your question, the reason why we see a lot of these historic cases now coming, the allegations are being made, I think it's a good thing, isn't it, that the times have changed, so people now feel able. We're not talking about Brand here, of course, we can't comment on that. But looking at other celebrity cases that have come up over the years, it seems that people now feel more able to come forward for behaviour which they'd have accepted back in the day because that was just what happened, even if it was completely unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah. I think, again, we have to be careful what we say because it's still alleged charges at the moment. But assuming these things are true in situations where they are true, then you've got to commend the bravery of the victims of these things. And culture changes, society changes, and I think it's right to be called out. It then opens up a question of how far back do you go? Because I know Nigel Farage has been in the media about these alleged racist comments from
Yeah.
50 years ago when culture was a lot different. How far back do we go? There's people tearing down statues of, say, Winston Churchill in years gone
Mm.
by. I mean, how far back do we go? Is there a statute of limitations on this stuff?
See, I think the statue stuff, I think it's garbage. I think we have to accept that that was a very different age. People paid in different ways. I think tearing it down and destroying our history, right or wrong, just my view, is the wrong thing to do. But going back how far we can go on cases, how many times have you or I covered a story where someone's life they might be in their 70s now, their life has literally been ruined by some abuse or something else that happened to them when they were under five, even. I know somebody who suffered some abuse in the first 2 years of their life. And they will say it's absolutely ruined their lives. And that person has never been brought to justice. So that absolutely should be taken to court, I think. But there are some interesting cases coming up next year. All the conspiracy theorists are going to love some of them. One in particular that I'm really looking forward to hearing is the details in the trial of the two Ukrainian men. It's been alleged how they might make money, but that's just been alleged. Nothing's been confirmed. They're currently in custody, charged with conspiracy to commit arson with intent to endanger life in connection with fires at two London properties and a car linked to Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister. This is due in April 2026. Now, what I find quite interesting about this is, number one, why are they in custody? Why are they remanded in custody? These aren't the sort of offences you should be remanded in custody for, surely. And number two,
What, arson?
what should you be remanded in custody for that?
Well, I would think so, Adam. I mean,
I
you
don't
talk
think
about
so.
remanding people for the safety of either them or the general public. I mean, again, yes, they're alleged charges, but I think those warrant custody personally, arson, because
Mm.
it's not like, I don't know, a parking ticket or not paying your taxes or something like that. It's
Well,
arson.
I think it's all irrelevant. I think there's no way they'll stand trial. Absolutely no way that this government will allow them to stand trial because of what may potentially come out in trial. I think something will happen and we won't see a trial. You
Okay.
asked my
First
predictions.
prediction of the episode there,
Yeah.
by the
How about you?
way.
Do you agree with my prediction or do you think the trial will go ahead?
I mean, I know quite a limited amount about the case, but I think
So do I, by the way.
based on the legal system at the moment and how everything's in a process of changing, especially with juries, I think we'll touch on that later, but as it stands, then yeah, why not? Don't know when, could be 30 years, but
And yeah, in a way, Stuart, this between Christmas and New Year episode, it's luckily no one's listening to it, isn't it? So we can just say what the hell we want, can't we?
well, there is that. I mean, people might listen retrospectively, but
I
let's
doubt it.
hope not.
But but that aside, I mean, there's some really important stuff coming through this year, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, the Grenfell Tower fire investigation. So while specific trials are not scheduled for 2026, the police expect to submit charging files to the Crown Prosecution Service by early next year, let's say the first quarter, with final charging decisions being made by the end of 2026. Any subsequent trials are not expected to begin until at least mid-2027. But surely the victims of this tragedy, Adam, have to see justice soon. We've got multiple governments that have been in power since 2017, and that's when the fire happened in June of that year. But criminal prosecutions have still not begun. Families have waited nearly a decade for accountability. A decade. I'm losing track of time. I can't believe it. Now, each has promised justice for Grenfell. I'm sure that's been a hashtag all over social media. It's a phrase we see often, but none have delivered prosecutions yet. Have you seen the documentary about this, by the way? I think it was on Netflix about Grenfell. Really harrowing.
Shocking. Everything about this case is so shocking. It really annoys me. Like, we keep here, don't we? All the thoughts and prayers with the families from our people in authority. They all say never again. But the question is, Stuart, they say never again, but has anything really changed? Do you know there are still loads of people, thousands of people living in UK buildings where the same dangerous cladding is still on the outside. So to me, it risks almost becoming a lesson acknowledged but not enforced.
But what about the one of the big criticisms of that documentary was the police handling of the
Mm,
situation? Because I think they had a, is it called a stay put policy?
yeah,
It might be wrongly phrased, but their policy generally when there's a fire or a situation such as that is to stay in your home,
yeah,
stay where you are. There was talk, I think, in the documentary of that being reviewed, but as far as I'm aware, that is still actionable. That's
yeah,
still the plan of action, right? Which I know this is a situation where you think, well, the exception doesn't make the rule, but you've just said there that cladding like that still exists in thousands of, what can you call them, high rises, I guess, tower
yeah.
blocks. So not only the people are being re-traumatized by this being brought up over and over again, endless hearings, I put my teeth in, legal language, you got postponements taking place. Some relatives have even died without
Yeah,
seeing justice. We see that so much on our own respective podcasts, but
yeah,
I just dread to think mental health wise the impact this is having on victims and the families.
yeah. I mean, it's not a historical case, is it?
Well, that's the thing. It feels like yesterday, but
Mm,
also a lifetime ago at the same time, which is a strange feeling. But
yeah,
yeah, we're coming up to almost a decade now, which just saying decade as opposed to 10 years makes it feel like a long time. And to say there's been sod all
yeah.
progress between now and then, it's
And
inexcusable, really.
yeah, and you always hear, don't you? Oh, it's complex. I mean, yeah. If somebody who I knew had been involved, sod the complexity. You got to get moving on this, haven't they? They've had 10 years to deal with it, and there is that argument, isn't it? Is this delay itself? Well, you've already said people have died who were involved without seeing justice. So, is this delay itself a form of injustice? And this is the big question I think we have to ask, Stuart. Would this case have moved faster if the victims were actually wealthier?
Ooh, that's a that's a deep question.
Yes, is the answer, by the way.
Okay.
So as you know, the area of London it's in, half a mile away, you've got multi-million-pound houses. Are you telling me that if that had hit there, that they'd still have been waiting for any form of justice? Absolutely no way. I don't believe it for a second.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. The thing that gets me is the circle of blame with this. So no one wants to take the blame for it for
Mhm.
understandable reasons. But what that means is there's an endless chain of blame. So it's, well, you blame, where did the cladding come from? This company. Well,
Yeah,
let's blame them. Yeah, but we didn't make the cladding, they did. Okay, well, let's go to them. Well, we didn't source the cladding, we hired in people. Well, let's go. And it just goes round and round and round and round and round. And the focus is taken so much away from not only the victims, but the safety regulations and the current houses that still have this cladding. It just gets lost in a plethora of red tape.
yeah, it does. And the endless public inquiries. So we've got the grooming gangs inquiries, if it ever happens. I mean, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
That's supposedly happening, but how long is that going to take? More justice, and then we come to one other, don't we? That we can't not talk about. We haven't discussed it so far. But there's another group of victims where the words of, I'm afraid it's our politicians of all parties, we're not picking on one party in particular, but where they're not backed by action. And that's the post office scandal. So, despite all the stuff after the TV case, what, a year, 18 months ago, criminal trials related to the Post Office Horizon scandal, and it is an utter scandal, probably the scandal of my lifetime, may not begin until 2028. So the police plan to meticulously go through the public inquiry reports and hand files again to the CPS in 2026. But court dates were a further step away, could be 2028. And meanwhile, as time goes by, more and more of the victims are dying, Stuart, without seeing any form of justice.
I mean, again, this is assuming a trial ever even happens, as
Mm,
you've touched upon. You know, the post office, again, it's a British institution because it's one of those things. Who's to say if it was a more low level company, private,
yeah.
it would have been solved by now. But as you know, the UK government has announced plans to change the criminal justice system in England and Wales. I alluded to this earlier. This is so that jury trials will be removed in many less serious, using that term lightly, cases. But it's not immediate yet. So David Lammy has said this is what's going to happen. But changes, they take time to take effect. They need to be approved by Parliament, enacted into law. This stuff can take time. So they're not going to, be enforced overnight. Once approved, implementation is expected to begin in 2026 or shortly thereafter, with the aim of cutting waiting times and reducing the huge backlog of Crown Court cases. But exact dates for the reforms to come into force haven't been published yet. I mean, can you see this happening? If so, when?
No, I don't think there's a chance of this happening. I can't see Labour MPs supporting this when it's and they need the support of the Labour MPs, don't they, to get it through Parliament, because the other parties, as they won't support it. Because it's so key to our criminal justice system, isn't it? It's so key. There must be other ways to clear this dialogue. Get the courts working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day if necessary. You've got to throw some money at it, haven't they? For years, governments of all colours have starved the criminal justice system. We've heard this again and again. In fact, I heard, who's the governor that you interviewed, the top governor? What's her name? Stuart,
What,
the
the
ex-governor.
prison governor, you mean?
Yeah.
Vanessa Frake Harris.
Yeah, I saw her being interviewed on another podcast, a less good podcast, obviously.
Less good?
and she was talking about the other services. She was talking about the ambulance drivers, the paramedics, the ambulance staff, rather, the police and the others. And then they're talking about the prison staff. And they were saying for years, prison staff have been almost like the poor relation of all the others. And I can't remember the exact figures, but she was talking about the number of attacks that take place on prison staff. I know there's lots on ambulance staff as well, by the way. But on prison staff, it's utterly shocking. What they need to do, they need to stop messing about on other things and throw money at the criminal justice system, get it open 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not get rid of juries. That can't be the answer, can it?
But then it brings up the argument of staffing shortages and backlogs to fill, right? Because prison staff are heavily outnumbered by the prisoner population within each individual prison. And a lot of the people that work there, it might be their first foray into this. And it's an hell of a jump, right? To go from being a civilian into that kind of role.
Yeah.
Fair play to anyone that does that as a job. That is
so hard.
I couldn't do it. I certainly couldn't do it. And it's not a normal job. It's not a 9 to 5 where you rock up, you do your job, you go home, you don't have to think about it. You're putting your life at risk every day, potentially, especially in some of the more maximum security prisons. And it's just, clearly it's a staffing issue. I don't know the ins and outs of whether there's, I don't know what the pay is. I don't know what the benefits are.
It's not good. It's not good. And I fear that this year could be the year that we see a real tragedy for a staff member in a British prison. I obviously, I severely hope not, but it can't carry on declining like this.
It can. And it probably will for a good while. I mean, you mentioned about ambulance staff. I saw on the news recently, and this was more about Christmas nights out and New Year's Eve nights out. Like if you're listening to this on the day of release, ambulance staff who were there called out to attend to people who've had too much to drink. There was a story of a guy being unconscious. He was that blackout drunk, and a paramedic, a female paramedic, turned up. And when he regained consciousness, he decided to verbally abuse this lady.
Shocking.
Truly abhorrent things were said. I'm not going to repeat them on here, but physical threats, verbal threats, all when you're trying to do a job, and a bloody good job as well. And again, arguably an underpaid job. I don't know the ins and outs, but for what they do every day, it comes back to the convo we had a few weeks ago about alcohol. Maybe we need to bring in prohibition again.
Do you know, I read a report sometime over Christmas, I think from April last year. I think it was over 30 attacks every single day on paramedics in the UK.
Jeez. Goodness me.
I mean, you might think, might you, there might be 10 over the course of a year, just really ridiculous people behaving, but 30 a day. How can you do your job facing that level of violence every single day? It's outrageous.
I mean, we all have bad days at work, as in we might think, oh, I did something I shouldn't have yesterday. I didn't send a report when I needed to. I really don't want to go to work today. Or call in. When you're a paramedic, you literally, you don't know what's going to happen when you turn up at the scene.
Hmm.
I imagine if you think it's going to go one way, often it doesn't.
Yeah.
And it is one of those jobs where you're putting yourself at risk. And anyone that's frontline, just take my hat off to you
Oh,
and
me
thank you.
too. Me too. It's the same as the police and the fire people on the ground. They do the most amazing jobs under terrible circumstances. I think they're let down by their senior officers. I think that's the
Mm.
problem. That's where it comes
There is a
from.
lot of good people, but there's a lot of stigma, and the
Yeah.
stigma seems to generally come from the hires up.
Yep. Absolutely.
And
But look, let's make some more predictions, Stuart. So I've picked 3 cases this year, and I want to know if there's going to be an answer. 1, Madeleine McCann.
do you mean an answer next year or an answer ever?
An answer next year.
Solved, do you mean?
2026 isn't going to be solved. Or is somebody going to face
Ma-
charges?
no, never.
No?
Not with Madeleine McCann.
And Claudia Lawrence?
I believe some higher ups already know who's responsible. And again, that will never officially be solved, even though unofficially, apparently it is.
And the third case is one that I've never really got too into. I know some people feel passionately either way about it. And that's the
Mm-mm.
case of Lucy Letby. Will she stay behind bars?
This is a tricky one because, like you say, this is a real Marmite level case. There's people that are adamant she's guilty. There's people that vehemently defend her as being wrongly convicted. Unfortunately, like yourself, I haven't really done much research on this, so I'm not in much of a position to comment either way. All I can go on is what I'm officially told by mainstream media, for what that's worth. And I think it's going to be a situation where she just remains behind bars. Unfortunately, I say
Well,
unfortunately. What I mean by that is, if it turns out she is innocent, then it would be unfortunate. But as far as I'm aware, you're aware right now, she's been found guilty of all these terrible charges, so she is where she belongs, assuming what we've been told is correct. That's all we can go on, right?
yeah, absolutely. Maybe next year, Stuart, assuming that we're still going. Perish the thought. We could get another expert to talk about this case, because I think we'd find that really useful, wouldn't we?
I think a debate would be
Mm,
useful, to
mm,
have a couple of people from either, like a proper news channel
yeah.
where they get people from both sides of the spectrum. I think that would be interesting with that
Okay.
case, especially because we know next to nothing about it, really.
It doesn't stop us talk about everything else, Stuart, does it?
I mean, what's your highlights of the year been? That's a poor choice of phrase, but what I mean is, are there any cases that you've covered that you are maybe proud of bringing to the table that maybe were underreported? I always want to, whenever I can, bring domestic abuse cases to the table to highlight that this goes on far more often than anyone else would perhaps think, whilst pinpointing people to resources if they're going through that. Anything like that this year that you think, that's one I'm glad that I did?
um, I think it's really hard to do, and let me tell you the reason why. I always feel that when people ask me this, I always say the most recent case that I covered, because I feel it can feel disrespectful to say otherwise. Let me tell you, explain in a bit more detail. So there's that meme you've seen, or not meme, but you've seen it joked about on forums. Oh, imagine me getting murdered, and then a podcaster would find it not very interesting. And there's something in that, isn't there? Some people find, and yet this is the worst thing clearly that's happened to that family and the friends of that person, and yet they're being deemed less interesting than another case. I just kind of struggle with that.
Yeah, and it's sometimes you might get a comment. For example, I've had comments. I had one recently that said that my episodes seem to get shorter and shorter.
Mm.
I mean, which first of all is nonsense when you look at the data. But from a moral perspective, some murders aren't complex in nature.
Mm.
Not every story is worthy of Netflix turning into an 8-part series.
Yeah.
When I say worthy, I mean interesting enough from an entertainment perspective.
Yeah.
But it's still a life being taken. It's still a family, friends, colleagues having a loved one
Mm.
taken away that they have to live with for the rest of their life. So if someone thinks that's not interesting enough or boring, then you need to take a look at yourself, I think, because it's not about that.
But what is quite interesting, I think, in podcasts, well, we talk a lot, Stuart, don't we, about wishing to bore everyone here. We talk about the move at the moment to videos. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
are putting podcasts on videos, and Stuart and I both do YouTube, and we both talk about how we don't understand YouTube. It's a total mystery. But I think one of the dangers in 2026 is it's very interesting. It's not interesting at all. It's very easy to turn a good podcast into a really crap TV documentary. And I think that's the danger that many podcasters are going to fall into this year. Not you and I, Stuart, because of course we're a master of all trades.
We're just too lazy to put all the effort into the video side of things, and we're clueless about it. But yeah, there is, if anyone does listen just on audio to stuff like this, then just be aware that in the future, video is becoming the new normal for podcasts.
Hmm.
You don't have to watch them. If it's on Spotify, you can just close your phone and it'll be audio. So you don't have to watch them, but you'll see this more and more. And with video comes I don't know if it's a desire or if it's just an innate, I'm so good with words when I'm unscripted. There's a thing that flips a switch. When you're editing audio, all you're looking at is like a load of waves and it's just a voice, and you can edit that quite the thing. If you mess a line up, you can cut it out. This is very, it's droll, but this is worth talking about.
That's you,
But
Stuart.
when you do video, when you do video and you start seeing something, you feel like you want to add visual elements to it, which takes
Yeah.
about 3 times as long. And I'm seeing a lot of overproduced podcasts now, which takes away from why people listen to independent creators like you and I. It's raw, it's storytelling, it's real. It's not a documentary produced by 50 people
No,
and written
it's
by
not.
a team of 10.
No.
So I think treading the line is hard. I'm trying to justify not doing it from a time savings perspective and from being not as qualified. But if anyone listens to these, just be aware that's why you're seeing it, because those types of content are getting pushed. So that's why people are doing it.
And I think it's wider we're going to see. I mean, we see a lot of podcasts now. We see a lot of 6, 8-part stories, don't we? Especially from the big corporates that are incredibly well produced. They're very good.
Limited series.
Yeah, we're also seeing more TV tied to podcasts. We're seeing podcasts going on to Netflix now in the US. We're seeing podcasts, videos all being part of social campaigns. And that horrible expression, Stuart, creating an audience ecosystem. Do you like that?
Never heard that. I hate it.
Obviously, I'm at the top level here, Stuart. You're at the bottom of the ecosystem. That's what it must be.
We are at different levels. I'm not going to deny that, Adam. And I'm also not going to deny that it's clear, there is still a huge appetite for UK true crime in the UK. I don't mean your podcast.
No.
You've literally, your name of your podcast is the search engine optimized thing, because that is the genre, your name of the show. It's like,
I know.
anytime I put that in my description, I'm like, oh, Adam's getting a free hit here. There's still a huge appetite for it. Almost.
Yeah, growing.
But it's almost as strong as a desire for an animal story to round off.
Oh, what a segue. What a segue.
The very best podcast. Here's one from Texas. How'd you like this?
Love it.
Kevin Butler was such a huge fan of NBA star Larry Bird. Do you know Larry Bird? No? Wow. Well, I first knew him from the film Space Jam, but he played for the Boston Celtics, and he was a good three-point shooter, one of the best in the game.
For those not watching the video, Stuart is now mimicking.
I just did a fake basketball shot with my hand. Yeah, I should have narrated that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was a limp wrist. So anyway, Kevin names his white-crested cockatoo Bird. it is a bird, I guess, and after Larry Bird is a big fan.
Good name.
But friends described Bird as being devoted to Kevin. So much so that after two men broke into Kevin's residence at Pleasant Grove on Christmas Eve in 2001, Bird tried to defend his home and his dad. Unfortunately, the home invaders bound Kevin, brutally beat him, and stabbed him multiple times, which did cause his death.
Dear.
Sadly, Bird was also fatally wounded in the altercation. The scumbags actually stabbed Bird with a fork before fleeing the scene. Awful. Regardless, Bird still provided investigators with the evidence they needed to solve the crime and secure a conviction. Because following the attack, DNA recovered from Bird's beak and claws was matched to a man named Daniel Torres. This was a disgruntled former employee at Kevin's pool company. Torres also wiped the blood off his head after being badly pecked by Bird and then touched a light switch, so that left some trace evidence, which put him at the crime scene. Now faced with the evidence, Torres confessed to killing both Butler and Bird. He was eventually convicted of murder, sentenced to life in prison. They were also able to track down Torres's accomplice, his half-brother, Johnny. What do you think of that one?
Well, it's a terrible story, isn't it? That's the first thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It is horrendous. But, I mean, there's no real light in that story, I don't think.
No.
But it's whenever you see justice done or served, ideally there'd been no murders committed in a perfect, angelic world. But there's something about seeing justice done, I think, which adds a little bit of closure, if that's at all possible.
And I think that's why we all enjoy or find true crime rather than enjoy it. We find it so interesting, isn't it? Because even when it's an unsolved case, we're all looking for that evidence to actually bring the crime to an end, aren't we?
I think we all want the best in society, really.
Yeah, we do.
For the most part. And if you see something like a murder, knowing that it's solved and the killer has been brought to justice, there's something in that.
Yeah.
And again, these things happen, unfortunately. We're in a world where murder happens for a variety of reasons. Seeing the person, some could argue for the death penalty. Neither of us agree with that. Treating a murder with another murder seems daft. But seeing someone brought to justice, it ties the bow, even if loosely, for me.
And I think it's the same with this podcast, Stuart. After 30 minutes, I'm sure what our listeners are crying out for is closure.
So that's where we'll leave it for today's episode.
And this year.
For this year and this year, yeah, for 2025. As always, we do ask this every week with varying degrees of success in our Facebook group. If there's anything you think we should talk about, let us know. Because sometimes we're a bit stuck for ideas.
Yeah.
As you can tell with this episode, written by Adam. You can comment on YouTube if you want. You can subscribe there. Join the Facebook group to get involved. We do have new episodes every single Wednesday. I may have stopped my own show over Christmas and New Year, but not True Crime Catch Up.
No, it's a priority.
Got the priorities in order. So make sure you're following on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, hit follow wherever you listen so you don't miss an episode. And if you are enjoying this somehow, please leave us a rating and
we're loving it, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Should we review our own show? That'd be a bit crass, wouldn't it? If you're enjoying it, please leave us a nice rating and review. It would help us push it to more people that may also like this show and our own respective ones. It's been a pleasure catching up with you this year, Adam, and you, dear listener. Thank you.